Welcome into the Fantasy Trading Room, hosted by Faceoff Sports Network. Today, we are going to be doing a 1QB Dynasty rookie mock with Derek Brown or D-Bro from Fantasy Pros. If you haven't seen part one, we do a super flex rookie mock draft, a more proper introduction, and all that good stuff already up on the channel, so check that out before this one. But with that being said, let's hop right into the video.
In 1QB, is this just the easy at the 103? For me, it's the easy pick of Rome, but where are you at, Steve?
Yeah, this is pretty chalk for me as well. I think that's how the draft simulator had it, is where I've seen it. Marv, Neighbors, Rome. I don't really think there's much else discussion. I mean, maybe we could have painted a picture for Brock Bowers, but the landing spot isn't fantastic, so I think it's pretty easily a Rome pick here. I
Yeah,
don't
I
have
agree.
too much to add on that.
I agree, dude. I think it's Rome. Let's go Rome and see how the rest of this first round kind of sneaks out. It's pretty good chalky. I mean, like Marvin Harrison Jr. goes with the 101, Neighbors, Rome, Xavier Worthy goes 104, Bowers 105, BTJ 106, Ladd 107, Pearsall, Keon, Caleb sneaking into the first round, Jonathan Brooks, Adonai Mitchell, and then the top of the second round, Leggett and Jaden Daniels. Where do you want to go with this pick? For
Now,
me, I think it's
personally,
Benson.
yeah, I'd go Benson as well. I think when you're looking at
Okay.
these running backs, like I know we talked about Lloyd as well, but I
Mm-hmm.
was kind of looking at it. It's, Josh Jacobs, even though he's not great, I do think he's better than a 29-year-old James Conner. So
Yep.
I think he could win the starting job in the second half of this year. He's pretty much a lock to be the RB1 in 2025, where we're kind of just like, hopefully the Packers decide to cut, Josh Jacobs, and even that's not like super clear. But I like Benson enough to where I'm good taking him there.
Yeah, same. I like Benson. So we go Benson at the 203. Then JJ goes off the board. Roman Wilson, Jalen Polk, Jalen Wright. Troy Franklin's still getting some love in the second round. Now, again, it's 1QB. Him going before Jermaine Burton, I think, is heresy, though. Drake May, Marshawn Lloyd, Blake Corum, Malachi Corley. I'm firmly on team Never Malachi. And then Malik Washington. But um, who are you enamored with here at the 303? For me, I think it'd be Javon Baker, but tell me I'm wrong.
No, I have Baker as my top ranked player as well.
Let's go, baby.
Him or Benson. It's not
Let's
close. He's in the
go.
same tier ish.
Okay.
Probably a few spots down. If you really really need a tight end, I could, maybe convince myself. But I would much rather have Javon Baker. I really
Boom.
like
We're
him as a
going Baker.
prospect.
I've heard enough. We're going Baker. So you
Yeah,
tell
let's
me why
do it.
you like Baker, because everybody's heard my takes about Baker.
Yeah, I think Javon Baker is a guy where, obviously he had a phenomenal final season at UCF. And people are kind of, the knocks I've heard against him are, okay, he transferred out of Alabama, but because, like, people are saying, oh, he wasn't good enough. But this Alabama receiving class in the past few years is not the same. Even if he's not, like, even if you're low on him, you have to admit, Alabama hasn't had very good, consistent receivers. Baker, if he really decided to stay, he could have had playing time. It really just seemed like it was a coaching issue. That's what I've heard. He doesn't, besides that, I haven't heard like any crazy like negative reports. And even so, that probably doesn't matter too much in this game of fantasy football that we play. But yeah, just like looking at his like domination. I mean, the man just produced at a crazy high level. I mean, 52 receptions for 1,139 yards is ridiculous. So just having that, massive explosive ability. When you turn on the tape, he just looks like a big play waiting to happen. I just love, if you're looking for an upside guy, and especially now that he goes to the Patriots, where Jalen Polk, I feel like that wasn't a fantastic pick by the Patriots. I feel like that was a bit of a reach. I don't think he's a lock to be the wide receiver one by any means. And like I said, I like Drake May as well. Super explosive. So I think it's just a great pairing there in New England.
Well, I said our cue while you were giving the beautiful Baker take. So we went Bucky Irving at the 403, then JT Sanders. I think it's a lot of like pick your flavor of like RB2 on a team and whoever hits, so based off of who gets hurt. But JT Sanders, Aldrich Estime, Cowing, Jamari Thrash, Johnny Wilson, Will Shipley, Garindo, Jordan Whittington making the list here. Who do you want to go here? I think it's probably your boy Theo, right?
Yeah, I like Theo, but I'm not If there's anyone else you like, I'm open.
No, I'm cool with going Theo. I mean, really, again, it's kind of pick your flavor. I've taken enough Eric All in this class to sit here and, I trust me, I've got my exposure on Eric All. That's not a problem. So I've taken him as much as I possibly can. And the way that I look at these rookie drafts, man, it's like, really, I'm willing to go really heavy on certain players that I truly believe in this class, because I think there's just standout guys that, whether it's ADP or landing spots or skill sets, like you were talking about loving Javon Baker, I've loved him this entire process. Same thing can be said for Jermaine Burton. Eric All has also been one of my guys, and it's like, I'm just going to take a lot of my guys and lean into my process and my takes and stuff. And it's like, look, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But if I'm not wrong, we're hitting home runs, baby. So, I want to get a lot of exposure to the guys that stand out to me in this class, but I don't dislike Theo Johnson. He does have opportunity there. I think this is really interesting, dude. And you tell me, like, this 5th round, now take Eric All out of the equation and Theo Johnson, because we talked about them a little bit, but anybody stand out to you in this 5th round that you're like, okay, maybe I need to take some shots on? Because I got one, maybe 2 names that made this list, but where do you sit?
I'm not a huge fan of anyone here, but Rasheen Ali is a solid player, I think, just
Mm-hmm.
based on the fact that the Ravens, RB2, you got Keaton Mitchell, who's coming off a torn ACL, so nothing for sure there. And there's really no true stud. Derrick Henry's 30 years old, so obviously he's probably not going to be the long-term answer, but I think he could carve out a good enough workload on a run-heavy offense. I mean, they were the second highest rushing yard team last year, or rushing attempt team last year. So if he gets a decent workload, I think he could be somewhat fantasy relevant, at least for the 5th round.
Yeah, I don't disagree, man. I'll take some shots on Dylan Lobby. I'll throw him in this mix, and it's not. I don't even know if Dylan Lobby's going to be the passing down back. Like, I know they drafted him, but again, it was what, 5th, 6th round capital. So, I mean, kind of filling out the depth chart for the Raiders there. But so I don't know if he's even going to play ahead of Amir Abdullah. But again, the reason that Lobby kind of makes some sense, it's more of a hedge against, if you're not a Zamir White believer and you're like, okay, either one of 2 things. We know Alexander Madison is not good. We that was proven last year. Honestly, it was proven years before that, but people didn't want to hear that last year. But we know Alexander Madison is not great. He's not going to play, definitively not going to play on passing downs. If Zamir White goes down, I could craft you a decent conversational piece about, like, if one guy were to step forward, it could be Dylan Lobby, considering not only, yes, the pass game utility is known, but I mean, is he not a better early down runner, or can we at least make the conversation of him being a better early down runner at this point in his career than even Alexander Madison or Amir Abdullah? So I'm willing to take a few shots on Dylan Lobby. I picked him up in a few leagues, draft him in the 5th round a few different times. And again, I'm not over the moon for him, because he was a prospect that, like, never, like, the pass game utility is good, but his tackle breaking metrics were, and then the draft capital again was not good. But if I'm squinting, I could see spending a 5th round pick on him. What are your thoughts on Lobby?
Yeah, I like him as well. I think it's just kind of all the uncertainty surrounding that team. But I don't like Zamir White, so I agree. I am probably higher on him because of that. And I think,
Okay.
yeah, he could carve himself a role as a pass catching back, which in PPR leagues especially is going to be very useful, and he's going to be usable at least on a week to week basis. Yeah, like you said, it's just, he doesn't really stand out in anything else, even as a pass catcher. He's good, not necessarily like, I wouldn't say he's like an elite by any means, but if he can, win that role, we get closer to the season end. He's picking up some steam above Amir Abdullah. I really like him, and I think he could have a much better season than most people are expecting out of him.
I do have to point out one thing here. Jonathan Brooks going at the 111. I've seen him drop into the 2nd round. I don't know what the hell people are doing. I really don't. I don't know why. And this being the 1 QB, for me, I think the conversation for Jonathan Brooks starts at the 104, even over Brock Bowers. I think he should not fall past the 105 in one quarterbacks because, dude, legitimately, we just got Rashad White with draft capital. Like, is the torn ACL a problem? Okay, sure. Do we also know that? And we have heard Dave Canellis and Dan Morgan talk about how much they value running backs. They spent a freaking second round pick on the guy. Like, he is going to be a freaking bell cow as soon as his body will allow him to be that. I'm not worried about Chuba Hubbard. I'm not worried about Miles Sanders. But looking at Brooks, and again, people could say, oh, well, it's just a simulator. Dude, I've seen Jonathan Brooks fall this far in even farther in Superflex leagues. And in one quarterback leagues, people love the wide receivers. This is not as crazy as it might have seemed on the surface. Like, I've seen him fall down the board, but you tell me, am I just drinking the Kool-Aid too much, Steve? Am I doling out the crazy sauce? Because I freaking love Brooks right now.
No, absolutely not. I mean, you gave the case for why you want to have him that high and kind of talking about the talent, but I'm just going to touch on the people that are like, oh my God, he tore his ACL. He is never going to play football again. Overreactions. Let's see. For one,
do you believe in modern medicine, Steve? I believe in modern medicine. I disagree with that. So
I hate, there's just so many reasons why, and I talk about this all the time, why I hate that statement so much. For one, he didn't have to declare for the draft this year. If he didn't know, I was saying this in my pre-draft process, if he didn't know that he was going to get good draft capital, if he didn't think that he was going to be ready relatively close to the beginning of the year, he would have went back to college. He can get paid now too. Nope. NIL is a thing. There's just so many things wrong with that. Second, you mentioned it, the Panthers traded up to get him. He had the best draft capital by far. If they didn't believe that he was going to be fine and healthy, they're the ones with access to his medical records, not us. So they would not have done that if they didn't think that his ACL was a problem in the slightest. And yeah, like you said, we saw Breece Hall coming off of ACL. I know it is, you don't want to take the outlier, but modern medicine, progresses every single year. And we just saw a guy that, probably should have not had a good season, finishes the running back 2 right away after that injury. Mm-hmm. So I have a very strong feeling about Jonathan Brooks, more so just the people that give that lazy sentiment on his ACL.
I think that the hate for this running back class has gone too far. I really do. And I'm not telling people to go and gobble up every single running back in this class, but I was kind of already there in the pre-draft process, like Marshawn Lloyd being my RB1. I was like, look, if you want to tell me you don't like this class after the top 4 guys, then that's fine. But I think that all of the top 4 guys had strong profiles or a lot to really like. And that's Marshawn Lloyd, that's Jonathan Brooks, that's Trey Benson, and that's Jalen Wright. Now, those landing spots, we can kind of quibble back and forth, but I think the landing spots have even been great as well. Dude, it's like Jonathan Brooks is going to be a bell cow. Marshawn Lloyd has to deal with the aging and the afterthought of Josh Jacobs. You have Trey Benson dealing with James Conner, and he's gone after this year. And also, you want to talk about the other guy here, Jalen Wright. He's one injury away from being in a 2-man rotation for the freaking Dolphins. So it's like, his out is one injury. It doesn't matter. Pick your flavor. It's Raheem Mostert. Oh, he missed time last year, and he's missed time multiple times in his career. Do I want to see anybody get hurt? No. Does it still happen because they play freaking football? Yes. Devon Achane missed time last year, too. So he's one injury away from either one of those guys going down from being a big part of that backfield. And if you stack up Jalen Wright, and I know I'm kind of hammering on him, but it's like, the more that I've had time to simmer on that landing spot, when it first happened, I was like, oh, I hated it. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, it's just made him a value. Because one injury happens, he sees the field. Steve, tell me if I'm crazy here, but would you be surprised and just blown away if Raheem Mostert goes down? You have Jalen Wright, who's 5'11", over 200 pounds, and you got Devon Achane. Would you be that surprised if something happened to Mostert and it's Wright, not Achane, getting the red zone carries because of his size? I wouldn't be that shocked. But per consensus, they're like, oh, you just shit talking. There's no way that's going to happen. But I think it's more likely than especially versus consensus. But what do you think, man?
No, I would not be surprised at all. I don't even think that there necessarily has to be an injury, to be quite honest. Raheem Mostert,
Fair.
I mean, he was
Fair.
great last year, but I mean, let's look back. He's 32 years old. What is the running back age cliff? 27? He's about 5 years past that. So
Half decade?
yeah, I mean, we're looking at his stats previously. He had the best year of his career in his 30s. I mean, how often does that really happen? To me, this just seems like the outlier of all outliers. I mean, the man had 18 touchdowns. He didn't even come close to that ever before. So I agree with you. Like you said, I actually watching the draft. I was like, damn, that sucks because I really like Jalen Wright as well. I think he's a super explosive prospect. But I think the thing for me why I was so disappointed was because I was really set on him after those top day 2 running backs went to, we got Brooks going to the Panthers, then Benson went to the Cardinals. I was like, wow, we're going to get Jalen Wright falling into the Cowboys or into the Raiders. I was like, he's going to be a 3-down back. Didn't happen, which is why I was kind of bummed out. But now that I've had time to reflect on it, I think that it's actually a pretty good scheme fit for him based on how he plays.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And yeah, I mean, we were hearing, I know my buddy, my colleague in arms, Thor Nystrom, was hearing a lot of Jalen Wright possibly going to the Cowboys. So I was so stoked and over the moon. And it's like, I don't hate the landing spot like with the Dolphins. I think my first knee-jerk reaction was I hated it because is there downside at that? Yeah, there's absolutely downside. Like, what if Raheem Mostert stays healthy? What if Devon Achane stays healthy? It's like, yeah, it could suck. Like, he could not even play this year. That is definitively possible, but the other side of that coin is also definitively possible. So it's like, Jalen Wright, we're baking in, I feel like where he's going in rookie drafts, we're baking in all the downside, but none of the upside. And so for me, that just means that I'm going to draft even more of him because, look, if we're taking home run swings, which, I mean, dude, nobody wants a dynasty roster full of just mid players, like wide receiver 3s, guys that are okay but not amazing. It's like, no. You take the swings for the wide receivers that could be alphas. You take the swings for the running backs and the tight ends and stuff that if they hit and they pay off, it's huge. And that's the ones you should be swinging for because a roster full of wide receiver 3s and middling other guys, like, it's not great. You don't want that in Dynasty. And it's like, are you going to have a lot of variance? Of course, but that's the game we play. It's all chock full of variance.
I mean, yeah, you play to win the game. I don't play to get 6th place. I play to get first and, win that league. So
I either want to be first or I want to be last. I don't want to be in the middle because that's Dynasty purgatory. It's like, tear it down to the freaking studs and let's rebuild the damn thing, or I want to be in first. Like, I don't want to be any kind of in between because it's like you get stuck in that purgatory and then you feel like you're never going to get out of it.
Well, that's going to wrap things up. Thank you guys so much for watching. And again, massive shout out to D-Bro for coming on the channel. It was a blast doing these 2 mock drafts with you. And be sure to follow D-Bro on Twitter at @DBro_FFB. Again, follow Fantasy Pros on YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. Just type in Fantasy Pros and you will be able to find them pretty easily. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.